All right, everybody. Welcome in and welcome back. Season 4, Episode 3, aka our 116th show. Andy, I think we had a couple. We had a rough week, I think, for our teams this week.
We did. We had some highs, some real lows, at least on
Yeah.
my end. I'm not sure. Looking at our notes, it looked like Barcelona had a little bit of a low spot. But
Yeah.
yeah, why don't you go and share your low experience?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So Barcelona was playing Rayo Vallecano, which is a small team in Madrid. And honestly, Andy, I think they're the toughest team to play in La Liga away.
Why do you say
And
that?
the reason for that, okay, maybe outside of like Real Madrid. But other than that, I think they're the toughest team to play away because of the pitch. The pitch is very small. The dimensions of the pitch are very small compared to pretty much anybody else in the league. They kind of had to squeeze it into the tight confines of a neighborhood in Madrid. So the fans are very close to the field. The players warming up have like no room. There's about like 5 to 7 feet between where the supporters are and where the touchline is
Oh
on the
wow,
sidelines. So
that's very tight.
it's very cramped. And because of that, I think Rayo Vallecano plays to their field very well. So they do a lot of tight pressing. The field's not very big, so it's hard to kind of get the passing going. On top of that, remember how last week I said the field was overwatered?
Yeah, you were
This
mentioning that.
week this week the field was undergrassed.
Oh no.
So there were like patches of dirt. The ball was moving very quickly, and I think
hmm
Barcelona kind of struggled with that as well. But Rayo Vallecano played a good game. It ended up being a 1-1 draw. Lamine Yamal ended up getting a penalty, converted it himself. Rayo Vallecano got a goal off of a corner where it looked like Ferran Torres lost his man, and the guy just kind of had an uncontested volley that he put past Joan Garcia. Um, yeah, I think the frustrating thing is it seemed like there were guys that were not playing their hardest.
Yeah.
And almost like it looked like the body language was, we're Barcelona, we deserve to win this game. And that was extremely frustrating. I think there were guys that played very well and played very hard. Joan Garcia was the man of the match for Barcelona. He stopped, I think, 3 or 4 point blank chances, and some of them would have probably been offside, but like didn't know it at the time.
Yeah.
So he played extremely well. It was his best game for Barcelona for sure, and the goal was definitely not his fault. So it was a good performance from him. I think Pedri played well, and yeah, I think it was tough. It's always a tough game to play, but I think also the juxtaposition between the last competitive game Barcelona playing where the ball was moving extremely slowly, and then this week where the ball was moving very quickly. I think it affected Barcelona for sure.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Hansi, I guess, went into like a tirade after the game in the locker room about people not playing hard enough, and I love that. And I think it was very obvious. I was disappointed in Danny Olmo. He started the game at that attacking midfielder position, but he missed 2 chances, one at the end of the first half and one at the beginning of the second half. The one at the end of the first half, he was like at the 6-yard box. Ball kind of came out on a corner. All he had to do was smash it into the upper half of the goal. And yeah, the goalie, and there were some players in the nets, but the goalie was down. It was one of the easier chances that you can ask for. And he just smashed it over top. And
Yeah.
disappointing. And then early
From
in
his
the second,
experience too, that's pretty disappointing. Like given how
yeah,
experienced he just is in the league, and like that's what
yeah,
he does. He's that attacking midfielder that can score you goals.
yep,
That's really disappointing to hear.
yep, I agree. And yeah, and then early in the second half, there was a good kind of tiki-taka kind of play. Ferran Torres laid the ball off to him, and he missed the shot from just outside the 18. He missed the shot wide by about 8 to 10 feet. Like
Yikes.
it wasn't close, and he could have slotted it easily. So I was very disappointed in him, and yeah, just it was disappointing overall. But like I mentioned, Rayo Vallecano is one of the hardest teams to play away because of their pitch and how they play to their strengths at home. The other
Yeah.
weird thing was VAR wasn't working for like the first half,
Oh.
and there was some controversy over the Lamine Yamal penalty, but they couldn't consult VAR because it wasn't working. And my
Did they
question
not?
is,
Yeah.
in 2025, when VAR is such a like critical part of soccer and how the game is played and called. How do you not postpone the game for however long it takes you to figure out to fix VAR before
Yeah.
I
That's
don't
kind of
get that.
strange because I know that so something similar happened. I want to say either last year or 2 years ago, where the communication between the virtual assistant referee and the VAR that was in London that got disconnected, and so
Hmm.
they did end up postponing the match, and but the cameras were still running to show what was happening,
Yeah.
and they showed like this guy running in from like the innards of the stadium, coming out with this big like tech pack and
Yeah.
putting in new batteries and everything to try to figure out what's happening with the connection there. So
Hmm.
there's precedent for, I think, postponing the match so that you can do that. But was it like a voice technical issue, or was it like a actual like the VAR system in where I don't know where the base is? Was that down? Like
Yeah,
what
I
happened?
I'm not entirely sure. They
Huh.
didn't really go into it, but I know that about 15 to 20 minutes into the game, the referee stopped the game and called the two captains over
Hmm.
and made a signal like, hey, like the VAR square is
Yeah.
like not working. So it was
Okay.
like clear, but I didn't really put two and two together until like 10 minutes later. The announcers were like, oh, we've just gotten word that VAR is not working. And I'm just
Hmm.
like, what?
Yeah. That's
It's,
so
yeah,
strange.
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So like there was a lot of weird stuff kind of surrounding the game. The fans were pretty hostile.
Hmm.
I guess there's issues with ownership of the club and the fans are trying to boycott it. So the fans were already up in a tizzy. Like it was
Yeah.
they were going crazy over some of the referees' decisions. It was a very hostile environment to play in. And
Yeah.
Barcelona definitely, I think, struggled with it, but not so much that they shouldn't have won the game.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. It's a 1-1 draw. We only end up dropping two of the points. It could have easily been a loss. Like Rayo Vallecano played well enough, but Joan Garcia was the reason we didn't lose. And so it's great to see him play well and up to kind of the standard of the player that we signed.
Hmm.
And I think it bodes well for the future. I just think Barcelona needs to come out and be more intense.
Yeah.
And I think Hansi Flick is good at getting that out of his players, and I think we can get that in the future. But we'll kind of see how that affects
Yeah.
us. I think it's not bad to have a result like this early in the season, and I think we just got to kind of get our feet back under us and get some games at home, which we'll have in the future.
Hmm.
With the Camp Nou going to be finished here soon. Getting
Yeah.
Barcelona back in the home stadium because we've opened up the season with 3 straight away games. So
Yeah. Yeah. Which we were talking about before the podcast, which I think they can sometimes throw off a little bit of rhythm too, because
mm-hmm.
it is. I think it's always a factor. It's never an excuse, but I think it's always a factor that someone has to overcome as a hurdle. In that,
Mm-hmm.
you're if you're a professional, you have certain, especially at that level, you usually kind of develop a routine on however you get yourself ready for a match. And if that routine's like a little bit off,
Mm-hmm.
that player has to be more adaptable in getting to that or how they're setting up for that. So I think you definitely see that early in the season. And
Yeah.
it's really funny that you mentioned that Barcelona had that kind of performance, because I have other questions and we'll probably get into it when I talk about United against
Mm-hmm.
Grimsby. So United were facing Grimsby Town for the League Cup. And Grimsby Town, to set the stage, is a Tier 4 team going up against United, who is I'd say the biggest club in the UK in terms of how many people are curious about United and want to know what United does.
Sure. Yeah.
What ended up happening in this game, kind of a similar story with Rayo Vallecano, in
Mm-hmm.
that pitch is different. Pitch is obviously smaller in
Yeah.
terms of just the stadium size. So
Mm-hmm.
a lot more intense. It's a big thing for United to be coming here. They haven't played in Grimsby Town for, I want to say, like 80 something years.
Wow.
It was in the 30s or 40s
Yeah.
when they last faced. And it's a big deal
Mm-hmm.
for a smaller club to be able to go against United. And it's the League Cup. So however the game ends after extra time, it immediately goes into penalties.
Mm-hmm.
That comes into play later in this game. So United start off like Barcelona start off, just like lacking a little bit of that intensity.
Yeah.
There were changes made specifically in the back line and in the goalkeeper position where you're thinking this could be a little bit dicey given you have two youngsters going into this, environment. And they didn't really perform as great as they could have. And so immediately, like, we're put under pressure, and two huge mistakes happen from Andre Onana. First one's not as huge, but he gets beaten near post after getting a finger and a hand to the ball, which the adage that I've heard for goalkeepers is you should never be beaten at your near post.
Yeah.
Like, never. And especially, like, if I can use a football terminology, if you get your hands to the ball, you should be able to catch it. You should be able to stop it. And that's kind of what happened for the first goal. Not in the grand scheme of things, in terms of a game, totally can happen. Those things happen.
Yeah,
the second
his
one
first game back too, right?
It was his first game back.
Yeah.
He unfortunately has this history in the past of not being. Onana has this history and is kind of known in the sport for having a very unorthodox style and technique.
I remember you saying that.
And I think that still comes back to bite him constantly because his feet aren't planted, so he's not ready to get to ground as quick, I think. That didn't really matter too much for the second goal. So for the second goal, it's a corner, comes in, Onana tries to hit it out, completely whiffs on it, and the ball hits a Grimsby Town player and just trickles into the back of the net with Onana nowhere to be found since he had gone out to punch and miss completely. So within 20, 30 minutes of the match, we're already down 2 goals to a fourth tier side. So worst start you could have. Absolutely a worst start you could have.
Yeah.
We do come back to tie it, and immediately it then goes into penalties after we tie it. That's the League Cup format. In the penalty kick,
do you like that format?
I do. I personally do, because
Okay.
I really don't think it's a good idea to have players start playing then a potential for 120 minutes and then go to penalties this early in the season. I'm not a fan. I'm personally not a fan of that.
Yeah.
Because it's already 3 weeks in, 2 weeks in, and you've already played 4 games. Yeah. So I think that I think makes it tough. So I'm okay with that format. Story of the match then goes, everyone goes through, or we have a chance to win it on penalties, and our new signing, Mateus Cunha, has a really weak penalty. It gets saved. So then we go through, and then it's sudden death. We go through the entire order of 11 penalties. So we get down to the goalies, and then it switches, and then it goes back to the start. And on the second way through, Brian Mbumo mishits his penalty and ends up hitting the crossbar, and Grimsby Town advances. So you can imagine the windfall from this loss.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you had seen or heard of Ruben Amorim's reaction to the match. It was, looking at him in the eyes, it looked like you had killed his wife and kids in front of him. He was absolutely shell-shocked. He was getting a lot of stick because he doesn't watch the penalties. He didn't watch any of the penalties go through. He got a lot of stick for that. And so having all of that happened, he was then spitting a lot of things of saying, like, come end of the Burnley match, like, we're gonna talk as a group to see what we're doing moving forward. And he said, like, this same kind of things repeating from last season, giving a little bit of an indication that he potentially might not be United manager come, end of next week. So that threw everything into a circus as well. So he ends up clearing the air. I personally love this, how he came out afterwards and said, he just straight up said that, hey, media, I know there's some people out there among you who think like I should be acting a certain way. He said, I'm working on it, but I can't promise you I'm going to be any certain way. I can only be who I am. I can only be myself. And that's how I'm going to approach those conversations, especially if you're asking me to do these do these. And I loved it personally.
Mm-hmm.
I, given how much media scrutiny there is just out there, it's just very refreshing to have someone go out and say that.
Yeah.
I do agree in that it's not good if you always do this, but if that's just honestly how he feels and how he interprets it, and he's still honest with the players about it, I really don't see any problem with it.
No, I don't either.
So
I wanted to ask you a quick question in regards to
yeah,
this game. So I saw a clip of Amarim on the bench. It's, I think, when United was 2-0 down, and it looked like he had his like sheet of paper with the field on it and his little magnets. Okay.
yeah,
And I heard criticism of one of the CBS Golasso talking hairdos saying like, "Oh, you shouldn't need that versus Grimsby Town, blah 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 blah." And I'm like, I'm looking at it and I'm like, United's down 2-0. It looks
yeah,
to me like Amarim is trying to figure out a way to get his team back in the game.
yeah,
For
yeah,
me, I don't care what the manager is doing as long as he's trying to figure out a solution to the problem in front of
right,
him. And
right.
as
That's
a
what a manager's
visual,
supposed to do. Yeah,
exactly. And as a visual learner, sometimes you got to see the field. You got to look down in your
yeah,
lap with it on like a sheet of paper or whatever. Coaches do this all the time when they're drawing up plays in basketball on a whiteboard and things like that. It's
right,
like, I don't care who you're playing. You're down 2-0 in the match. You got to figure something out. And obviously
yeah,
he figured out something because United came back from down 2-0 to tie it 2-2. And
right,
it's like,
right.
I just don't understand kind of like the vitriol, the hate that Amarim gets. And I
Mm-hmm.
get that he's playing, or he's managing United. And yes, United should beat Grimsby Town 100 times out of 100 probably, right? But like I don't get all of the negativity that he's getting. He's managing a United squad who finished 17th in the league last year. He is
15th,
doing his
but
best.
yeah, yeah.
Sorry, I didn't remember. Was it 16th?
No, it was 15th. It was
15th.
15th.
I'm sorry, 15th.
But yeah, no
So
worries. Yeah,
anyway, but he is playing his hand as best he can. And if he has to sit on the sideline and visualize whatever it is he needs to visualize to get this team back in the game,
mm-hmm.
like, it's one thing if he's doing it before the game, but even still, like, it's like he's just trying to figure things out and trying to manage. It's like,
Yeah,
who cares how he does it?
right.
I
It's
just,
yeah,
it upset
this,
me. As a non-United
yeah,
fan, seeing the comments in regards to that, it upset me.
mm-hmm. Yeah. It's kind of, I think it's like this meme culture, this kind of like banter. I think negative banter culture, and honestly,
Yeah.
this gets into my super dud is that.
Mhm.
Like with Barcelona, like with a lot of other big teams, there's always this narrative, and it feels like the media has really just taken this narrative of United's just free falling. Let's keep on just piling this pressure on them and
Yeah.
be like, oh, this is a really deep, like this is a fallen angel. We gotta like keep it low and being like, how low can it get? And they wanted to just keep going lower and lower and lower and lower in this like really negative spiral thing. So I think that's it, because you mentioned it right there. It's like the person had said like, oh, he shouldn't be having to do that. It doesn't matter at that point. If you're a manager, your goal is to win the game, and you're going to do anything you possibly can to win that game.
Yep.
So why does it matter that he's doing that in that game?
Yeah.
Where, I mean, people were talking about, in a friendly when United back in 2008, I think last time when they were in Chicago specifically for the tournament, they were losing at halftime to the Chicago Fire, and like heavily rotated side. Ferguson decided that, we still have to win this game, even if it's a friendly, we have to win it. So then he put on all the starters then ended up winning the game for him. But I'm sure if there was that kind of vitriol there, they would have been right on Ferguson being like, you shouldn't have to, do all this for a friendly. And it's like, it's a friendly in a preseason. What is it? So we can get more into it when we get to the Super Duds. But yeah, that's kind of, that's been the narrative.
Yeah.
Moving on from that, puts a lot of pressure on our game against Burnley. We win the match 3-2. It's a penalty, like a really late penalty, ended up being the deciding factor into us. To kind of sum it up, the performance was good. We had just bad defensive relapses in the second half, but we fought back to get them back. And same kind of comments coming out of people commenting on how Bruno Fernandes celebrated the win. He's like, oh man, he's celebrating like they won the World Cup. And it's like, he won a massive match for his club that's feels like it's in free fall because of people like those people making comments have put them into that position.
Yeah.
And why can't he celebrate? Why can't he celebrate a goal? Like, what's so bad with celebrating? So,
yeah,
long
just
story
trolls,
short,
man. Trolls.
Yeah, just big trolls. And so that's been just kind of this big whirlwind, but I think it's a big question that I have in thinking of this and want to ask you is, how can teams avoid having, especially when you are expected to do well, how do you avoid that dip in form or dip in intensity? How do you do that? I don't know if do you have ideas on how that can happen, or what's your kind of thoughts on when a team that's expected to win a game doesn't show up?
Sure. Yeah, I think part of it goes to the manager, but I think a lot of it too, I think should lie on the shoulders of like the captains or like the elder statesmen in the club, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's on them before the team heads out of the locker room to step onto the pitch to be like, hey, like we got to lock in. I don't care who is across from us. I don't care what the environment is. I don't care if it's a friendly. I don't care if it's the final of the Champions League. Like we got to lock in. We have a job to do. It is our job to perform. I don't, in either of these situations with Barcelona from this past week or with Manchester United from this past week, I don't know what the vibes were in the locker room, what the pregame speeches were, but I think personally, because the coach can say what they're going to say, but sometimes there seems to be, being on competitive teams, I'm sure you felt this before. Sometimes when the coach gives a speech, it's like coach is here, players are here, and there's that disconnect, right?
Yeah.
And you can hear the words of the coaches, but sometimes they don't sink in like they should. I think when the captain or the elder statesman or, whoever it is, maybe the manager leaves and they stand up and be like, hey, like, let's focus in. We have a job to do. Let's go take care of business out there. Right. That's where I think it has to come from. I don't know what your thoughts are on it, but I think that's who has to take the impetus to kind of lock the team in and get them focused to play.
I think that makes the most sense to me, because I think it's really how that translates, because again, it's that locker room culture. I think it's really about that locker room where a manager can come in, and obviously there's going to be just that little bit of disconnect between the manager and the players. It's not like they're like best buds, and there really shouldn't be best buds in my opinion. Right. But they have to be honest. And that really does come from that attitude and that culture in that dressing room. I think it does come from those senior players and how they're approaching it. Yeah. And I think it also comes into of when there's changes. So for like United's example, you had younger players coming in, you had new players coming in.
Yep.
What can the senior leaders do to ease the concern, ease the pressure on those younger players? How do they communicate that? I'm going to pick on Diogo Dalot, for example. Diogo Dalot I think he's in our leadership group at United. He was playing and he did not have a good game against Grimsby. But as that team, as that leadership component, I feel like he needs to step up to go to his defenders and saying, hey, you're in this position. We've got you. Give that ball to me. I'll take care of it. Like if you feel you're under pressure, I'll be there. I'll be ready. I'll take care of this for you. Yeah. And maybe he did do that and then just didn't perform. And that can happen. I think one thing was telling in that, hearing the news from a Grimsby Town executive, he was watching United get off the bus, and he specifically said that United did not look like they wanted to be there. That's a thing that I think is another component, as you had mentioned, of the senior leadership. It really starts with that general attitude. And if you notice that attitude dipping, I think it comes from the start. And if the managers communicated that, if the players still feel that, there's got to be something, there's that disconnect there, and that has to get addressed. And I think that's the component too. If I'm thinking about it from my super competitive times, it's really about getting into that right frame of mindset and talking about it beforehand. So I think getting that level set is another aspect. So yeah,
for sure.
So
for sure.
I think I think Hansi's got them set up for the next game. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any qualm or do you have any reservations on how they're going to start next time?
No, not necessarily. Like I said, I think this is a combination between the size of the pitch, the state of the pitch, and how Rayo Vallecano plays to it. I've always, since we started this podcast, anytime I've watched Barcelona play against Rayo Vallecano, we have never really looked good.
Hmm.
I think it was, I don't know if it was last season or 2 seasons ago, but early in the game, I remember Ronald Araujo was trying to play a diagonal long ball from like the right back, right center back position to the left winger and just overcooked it by about 15
Hmm.
yards into the stands. And it just really, that has really stuck with me whenever I think of the stadium, is just
Hmm.
how tight it is. It is so hard to play there. I think, last year, I'm pretty sure Rayo Vallecano got a draw out of both Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid at home.
Hmm.
It's just one
Okay.
of those places where it is hard to go in and get performances or get results out of there because of the pitch. And so I am not worried about Hansi getting on the guys to get out there and perform and step up and work harder in the game. I
Hmm.
think also like hopefully having Lewandowski out there as that kind of elder statesman to pick guys up. He was a vocal leader last year in the fall when Barcelona hit their slide on getting guys to be more mature and to play with intensity week in and week out. And I think he
Hmm.
will be a spokesperson for that. And I think he will be a good leader in that regard.
Yeah.
And I'm not worried yet if it gets more consistent that this is happening. I don't love Lamine Yamal's attitude at times and how he plays the game at times. I think it's a little bit selfish, but it's not just him. There are other players where it's happening as well. And yeah, I just think we need to get back to the form we were at the end of last season, which I think we can do.
Hmm.
I just think it takes time. It takes
Yeah,
time
it
after
does.
after the summer off. So
It does. Yeah, it takes a few weeks. It takes a few games, and
yeah.
yeah, it takes a lot more games than just 2-3 games to kind of
Hmm.
get a sense for that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And
So,
when you play on fields that aren't your own, that are in statuses that are like not what the Camp Nou or the Bernabeu would be in, like if either of those field had been like last week's or this week's fields, there would be some
mhm,
serious questions. So it's,
yeah,
you know, it's a combination of things. And I think Barcelona just need to get their feet under them and start playing like how they know that they can play with
yeah.
that intensity. So
It's nice. It's nice to talk to a fan that also tries to keep a level head
yeah.
on these things. Because
Yeah.
golly, if you go on the internet, obviously they have their own mo and they're trying to get as many clicks as they can.
Yeah.
So trying to go so emotional reaction, just kind of dialing it back, I think
Yep.
is good to hear on that.
Yeah,
So
for sure. For sure.
all right. So we've checked the vibes on our two teams. Let's go check the vibes the rest around the league. Bundesliga, we have Bayern getting by Augsburg 3-2. Frankfurt hustling past Hoffenheim. Dang, you did a really good job with this, Paul. And then Köln, yeah, I think that's it. Köln, German listeners, please help me with my pronunciation. They flow around Freiburg 4-1. So nothing seems to be, kind of really sticking out from those matches. Seems pretty, straightforward. The teams that should be up in the top there got their wins there.
Yeah, I'm curious because Köln hasn't really been at the top in the Bundesliga in recent years that I have seen. So it'll be interesting to see if they're able to continue their form. I mean, obviously they haven't
Mm-hmm.
played any of the big dogs yet, but be interesting to see that. And Andy, I wanted to hear your thoughts on Bayer Leverkusen and their manager situation
Yeah,
here.
this is kind of. I think this is crazy. I haven't looked too much into it. I've just heard the reports that Eric Ten Hag, so United's last permanent manager, was sacked 2 weeks after being in charge of Bayer Leverkusen.
That's
I think he
wild.
had a tough start in his first tough start in his first two matches. Didn't get the results they were looking for, and I think in the preseason they didn't necessarily get the results that they had wanted to get as well.
Hmm.
Um, this seems, yeah, I want to look into this more because I kind of have two different thoughts. First thought is from a stat that I saw that when Erik Ten Hag came to United. He lost his first two, but then he ended up, getting the FA Cup. So it just takes a little bit of time.
Mm-hmm.
The second part is Erik Ten Hag's kind of style in terms of management and in terms of how he organizes things. He is, I think, more strict, and because of that, I wonder if that rubs either teams the wrong way or potentially front offices the wrong way.
Sure.
I'm curious about that. So this is very strange, and honestly, it doesn't. It really makes I don't think it makes Erik Ten Hag look bad. I think it actually makes Bayer Leverkusen look bad because they just made this decision to get a new coach, and they're like, oh wait, actually, we don't want this coach anymore. So that's that's really not a good sign. So
no, it's not. It's not.
I think
it's a real head scratcher for sure.
Yeah. So be curious to see what happens with Bayer Leverkusen. Let's say near the middle of the season, end of the season, where they end up, because I think we'll probably end up seeing them near the lower end of the Bundesliga if I'm being completely honest. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
No, I think you summed it up well. I just don't know why you would invest in somebody and then after 2 weeks of performance on the job, you're like, all right, see ya. It's just like, all right, why did you hire me?
Yeah. So. That's more on the club, I think, for sure.
Yeah, I think so. Yep.
Cool. All right, Paul, let's take it back to Spain. What are you seeing around the vibes there in La Liga?
Sure, yeah. So we had Real Madrid meander past Mallorca 2-1. Athletic Club breezed past Betis 2-1 as well. And what that means for the standings is Real Madrid is tied with Athletic Club for first with 9 points. And then Barcelona and Villarreal who tied as well. They tied Celta de Vigo, I believe. And they're tied in second with 7 points. So both within shouting distance for sure. I think the biggest shock so far this year, Andy, is remember how I was talking about Atletico Madrid last week? They got another draw against lowly Alaves. And they drew 1-1. They only have 2 points through the first 3 games of the season.
To draw from those the two teams that they've drawn from in the lower half, right? Because I think even the last game
all their results have been against lower half teams, and they 1 loss and 2 draws is a terrible start to the season.
Yeah, that's really poor. That's really poor. As we know of teams that, speaking from United, that can struggle against the lower league teams, can't be having that if they're trying to go for top 4 even, let alone trying to go for the title.
Yeah. So we'll have to see how that plays out if they continue to struggle, because honestly I feel like they got even a little bit better in the offseason compared to where they were at last year, but the results have not shown that so far. So I think pressure's on Diego Simeone to get these guys to perform.
Yeah, they definitely need that win to kind of ease the pressure, because I think after 2 games it's tough. When you get to 3 looks a hell of a lot worse than 2. Kind of like in NFL, like if you're 2 and 3, or 2 and 3, it looks a lot different than being 3 and 2 in that sense. But
for sure.
Heading over to Italy, Paul, in Serie A, I think big news coming from this is that Inter faced Udinese in a pretty, I think, tighter matchup, pretty like a pretty sizable match in terms of fan bases and club stature. Inter went up and got the first goal pretty early on in the match, and then proceeded to give up 2 consecutive goals to end up losing the match to Udinese at home in Milan, which means that Napoli, Roma, who won their match, Cremonese, I forgot to mention Cremonese, I think, in the previous match or previous pod, but they are, they have won both of their games that they've played. And Juventus fighting, I think, hard to get past their opponent with a Vlahovic, I think is how you pronounce his name, with his solo goal being the big deciding factor. Now we'll skip over Serie B, go to Serie C to see my FC Cosenza. They unfortunately lose their home opener to Salernitana. Similar story to Inter almost, going up a goal and then proceeding to lose and squander their lead to give up 2 consecutive goals. So tough start for them. They're currently in 13th in their league, and as the season goes on more, I'll try to throw in little tidbits of what it looks like being in Serie C, because it operates a lot differently than Serie A and Serie B when it comes to placements, locations, and what happens afterwards. But
Got it.
Paul, head over to back to England, and
Yes.
what do we have going on for the Premier League, both in Premier League and then looking at the League Cup as well, if you wanted to touch on that.
Sure, I'll kind of let you go into the League Cup if you want. I only focus on the league itself. So Liverpool ended up beating Arsenal 1-0. It was a tightly contested match. Liverpool ended up getting a goal, I think, in the 89th minute with, oh man, I forget the pronunciation of his name. Saba. Nope.
Saberslay?
Yeah, that guy. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, it's a mouthful. It's a mouthful.
Yes, it's a lot of consonants.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they ended up winning 1-0. Brighton ended up marching past Man City 2-1, who have not had a good start to the year. And then Bournemouth
Yeah.
ended up toppling Tottenham 1-0, which kind of brought the hot start to Tottenham to a close
Mm-hmm.
there. I think the biggest thing, Aston Villa, after the season that they had last year, Andy, they lost 3-0 to Palace. I think they have 1 point on the season so far. And I just don't know what's going on there. And I've heard and seen more rumors where Emi Martinez wants to go to Manchester United. I think he just wants out of Dodge. I think
Huh.
he just wants to get out. I think he's
Yeah.
seeing what's happening there, and he's like, Manchester United is not a worse situation than this. It's actually better. I want out. Like,
Yeah.
so,
Interesting. Yeah. This is a tough one because I think
mhm.
there is. I hope he's not running. He as in what is it? Who's the man? Sorry, the manager for Aston Villa. I heard Martinez, and I was like, no, it's not Martinez.
Nope.
It is. Oh
Hang on.
no.
I will get it for you.
Okay.
I'm
Well,
going to see it and
look.
go, oh, yes, of
Yeah,
course.
I know, because he should be talked about more as a
Unai
manager and just
Emery.
okay.
I
Unai
didn't even
Emery,
see it.
thank you,
I didn't even
thank
see it,
you.
and it popped into my head. Yes.
Perfect. Yeah. So with Unai Emery, sometimes I think this might kind of follow his managerial career of like, he does get a tune in a few years out, but now is kind of, I think, the rubber hitting the road of can Aston Villa sustain um their level of performance,
Yeah.
and I think I think this is going to be the tough part for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think in terms of with Emi Martinez, lots of stuff has been happening for the close of the transfer window.
Mm-hmm.
And it did look at one point, we were looking at Emi Martinez. It looked like personal terms were agreed. But unfortunately, I don't think he is coming to United because we did just
Yeah.
sign a Belgian goalkeeper whose name escapes me. But for the purposes of this podcast, yeah, I don't know what's happening. Again, it's still early on. It's still early
Yeah, it
doors, but
is.
they're not starting. They're not starting strong, and
No.
it's going to get, I think, a lot harder for them.
Yeah. Yeah. So what that means for the standings, Liverpool's in solo first with 9 points, Chelsea in second with seventh, and then a lot of teams tied at 6 points through three games of the season. So we'll have to see how things shape out there.
Yeah. So yeah, again, it's so early. It's hard to kind of tell where things are at. So you just kind of have to go with performances
Mm-hmm.
and seeing where teams are kind of ending up there
Yeah.
for that.
Liverpool
So
over Arsenal 1-0 is a huge result, especially to have the
it
big of
is.
the game as it is that early in the season
Yeah.
is
And there's also just a lot of talk of this being Arsenal's year because it does seem like Man City do need a reset. They do
mm-hmm.
need, I think, new players coming in. They need a new churn, just from where the standards that Pep Guardiola has.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, losing to Brighton, we've lost to Brighton quite often. And they're a good side. So if you're not,
Yeah. Yeah.
if they're not connected, if any team is playing against them and it isn't like connected all the way and it isn't a solid team, Brighton will cause you problems. So it looks
Yep.
like they had problems happening.
Yep.
So
Yep.
yeah, we'll look to see how that goes on. But Paul, we'll kind of start wrapping up, getting to our favorite part of the podcast, talk about our super subs and super duds. Paul, who do you have as your super sub?
Yeah, so I have Borja Iglesias, the mountain of the man with the giant beard, for Celta de
Yeah,
Vigo, coming off the bench, netting a 90 plus 4 minute game tying goal for Celta de Vigo against Villarreal. And yeah, it was beautiful, beautiful cross into the box. He got just ahead of the defender and slotted it home with the header.
Love
and
it.
good result. Villarreal looks to be a formidable side this year, so to get points, even though Celta de Vigo has gotten, I think, 3 straight draws on the season so far, still a good result given the spot that they were in to nab points at the death.
Definitely. Yeah. Always love, I think, in terms of like a winning goal, I think a headed goal, I think is probably the best of the goals. Either that or like a scrappy goal. I think for me,
Mm-hmm.
those are the top two for how like a super sub gets his goal. That's what I
Yep.
would prefer. Well, do you have a preference in terms of your favorite, kind of winners?
I mean, I'm partial to Messi and Lamine Yamal's kind of stepping in his footsteps for that from the right side cut back onto the left foot curler into the top left corner. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm biased, so
Yeah. When it curls and sails in like looking like a cruise missile,
yeah,
that's always something else.
yeah.
I remember one from Insigne on the other side during the Euros as like the goal head goal, I think against Belgium, and man, it was just sweet. It was just
Mm-hmm.
it fills you in the right areas in your heart if you're looking
Yes,
for that kind of thing.
in the cockles of your heart, wherever those
In the
are.
cockles, yeah. Thank you. I
Yep,
was thinking about it, but I didn't want to
yep.
say it out loud, Paul, and I
It's
appreciate you saying it out loud.
yeah, yeah. I
It's a
don't know
great
where that saying comes from, but it's a good saying.
I don't know, but it just makes sense.
Yeah,
Even if you don't know exactly what it means, it's still to me
it's
it still makes
it still
sense.
makes sense. Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah,
So,
love it. Well, for my
who you
super
got?
sub, I have someone that honestly sounds like a character from Lord of the Rings. His name's Wilson Isidor
Mm-hmm.
of Sunderland, getting the win for his Tyneside club, keeping Sunderland having a solid start. They have not lost a match yet after playing 3 games, and they were just promoted from the championship from last year. So
Yeah,
strong start does give them good hope for staying in the Premier League, which will be
definitely
nice to see as one of the stronger, more history clubs in the top flight of English football getting
yeah,
back to the Premier League. Very excited for that to be happening.
for sure,
All right,
for sure.
Paul, heading to our super duds, who and what do you have for that?
Yeah, I'm just going with Barcelona's effort overall as a team. Like I said, there are some individuals who are not included in that, but as a team, we just did not look very intense. Like we were very motivated in this game. So that's what I'm going with. I could talk about the VAR issues. By the way, I'm going to say as a bonus here, I'm not going to write it, but as a
Mhm.
bonus, I think ESPN needs to get rid of color commentators who played for whatever club that they are announcing
Yeah,
because they had a former,
the
I believe,
Steve McManaman
goalkeeper.
again.
No, it was not
Oh,
Steve
okay,
McManaman.
someone
No, it
different.
wasn't. It was somebody different. It was, I believe, a former goalkeeper of Rayo Vallecano. And he
Mhm.
just whinged over and over again about the penalty no call or call that Barcelona got and how Rayo Vallecano deserved to win the game based on how they played better than Barcelona. And like, it was just annoying. I'm like, dude, just shut up.
Yeah,
Like you got to
yeah,
put your biases aside and just announce the game because
right.
for any non Rayo Vallecano fan, so any Barcelona fan or any like neutral fan who's watching the game does not want to hear you go wax poetical about Rayo Vallecano, your time there, how they're playing better than Barcelona in this game and the results and blah 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 blah. It's just like we don't want to
Mhm.
hear that.
Yeah,
So
no,
I think it's an ESPN issue because they should not have color commentary. If you want to have former players, fine, but don't have players that played for whatever club unless they can be completely unbiased. Like I
yeah,
don't personally, would I like to hear a Barcelona ex Barcelona player as a color commentator? Yeah, I would, but for everybody else's viewing and listening experience, nobody else wants to hear that. So it's not good TV. It's not a good production for that
yeah.
reason. So
Yeah. And like the thing I always kind of go to is like it's the insight. Like can you give us insight of like what it
yeah,
feels to play against a bigger side or something like that? Like give something that people would not necessarily know and you don't have to divulge everything, but just give a little bit. Don't just be a fan that I'm going to hear next to me in the stands because
exactly.
unless you're going to poke fun at that and be like even just saying like I might be a little biased or something like that,
Yeah,
then
yeah,
that's
yeah.
I think that makes it a little bit tasteful because then you're just
Yeah.
getting to
Yeah.
know the commentator. But
Yep.
if you're going to whinge, if you're going to keep going back to oh man, like what, like this referee has been having a pretty bad game, I would
Yep.
say,
Yeah.
and stuff like that, like just leave it. and just
Yep.
go home at that
Yep.
point.
Yep.
So
So
I'm with you. Appreciate you mentioning ESPN as one of those sources of media, because I'm going to say
yes.
for my super dud, I think it's just the media circus.
Sure.
I think Craig Burnley, something happened to him. I don't know. Maybe Manchester United took him out on a dinner and then decided to, not pursue. And Craig Burnley's just really angsty.
Yeah.
He is kind of on the top of my SH Dank T list of just people I just never watch. Like if there's a video and there's Craig Burley ever on that, I honestly ESPN FC, I never watch any of their stuff that pops up. But again, just the vitriol, I think, of when you're starting to go after players for expressing their emotions of celebrating.
Yeah.
What is so bad with that? I get the whole thing
Yeah.
of standards, but the thing is, know who you're talking about. You're talking about Bruno Fernandes. You're talking about someone who, without him, United would have been 17th, Paul, in terms of the goals and things that are created.
Yeah.
I think I've just started following Good Vibes John on social media, and I really do like his content because he's good vibes. He's keeping it positive, I think, keeping it level-headed. And he kind of listed out a lot of things of, people just appreciate that, like, he scored a winning goal for his club at a time where he felt it was really, really important.
And
he's celebrating. Let him be.
I think it is important because the difference between 2 points through 3 games versus 4 points through the first 3 games of the season is a huge difference.
Yeah.
It's a massive difference. So that was an important goal. It was an important result for United. So shut up, Craig.
It was.
Shut up.
Yeah. I'd say just media. I really just don't like this narrative. Stop the narrative of look how far it's fallen and they shouldn't need to do this, because then it's like, because imagine if like that's like your kids or someone like you're trying to teach playing the game. If you have that kind of expectation, how are they ever going to meet that expectation?
Right.
Especially when they're trying to learn and grow into that. So you guys just give it a rest is my thought.
Yep. Agreed.
All right, Paul, that's going to, I think, bring us to the end of this podcast.
Yes.
Next week is going to actually be, it's International Week. So we will not have a podcast this coming week, but the following week we'll be returning back. I unfortunately will not be in attendance for that week. So you are most likely going to either get a solo pod from Paul, or maybe Paul brings on a special guest.
We'll see.
It'll be up to him.
Yes.
But thanks for hanging with us, everybody. I'll give us a sending off of I have been Andy. Paul has been Paul. He's going to kiss the badge and wishing you all a big. Oh, he's not going to kiss the badge this time.
No, it's Spain.
It's not Barcelona. Wow. Okay.
Yep.
I won't.
Yep.
Well, then we'll continue on. Paul has been a different kind of Paul than previous podcasts. I have been Andy, and with that, I'm wishing you all a big old bye.
Bye.